Hey, what's going on, guys? So today I'm going to be discussing and ranking the four Avengers movies from the worst to the best, in my opinion. And again, it's just my opinion. It's not the definitive list. I don't think there's a definitive list out there. We're all different. We all have different opinions, and whatever you guys' opinions are, whatever you guys think, comment below. Let me know what you think. Let me know what's your personal favorite or what your least favorite is, and let's start a discussion. Like, I love to talk movies, and I love to have opinions, and talk about the differences that I might have versus you might have, and we can have a healthy discussion about these things. So again, I'm going to rank the four Avengers movies from the worst to the best, in my opinion. So the coming in at number 4 for me is going to be Avengers Age of Ultron. And this is the most frustrating on the list for me. And I think the reason why is because it could have been so much better. And I don't think it's a bad movie. Again, all four of these films are decently good, in my opinion. I know some people hate Age of Ultron for whatever reason. It's just the most frustrating on the list for me because I know it could have been probably number 2, number 3. And I don't think it's a bad movie. Like I said, I don't think it's an awful movie because there are some movies in the MCU that I think are awful movies. But Age of Ultron is just the most frustrating on the list for me because I liked the action, and I really liked some of the things that they built on from the first movie. I like the characters. They introduced Vision in this movie, the Hulkbuster armor. Iron Man and the Hulk fought, and it was almost like a precursor to Avengers Civil War, and I think that was done on purpose. So those kind of aspects I really liked, and I really liked that. I'll save it for when I get to Endgame on my list, but there were things that I think that this movie kind of made the original Avengers and Avengers Endgame and Infinity War, it made those movies better because there were things that happened in this movie that carried on to the later films. And we kind of, especially with Tony Stark, played by Robert Downey Jr., I think that I liked the direction that the movie started him with. And then we saw what happened in Civil War and then into Infinity War and Endgame. But where this movie gets a little frustrating to me is it tried to have stakes for the sake of having stakes. Killing off Quicksilver, I didn't really like that. I mean, if you were going to go the route of killing off an Avenger, I felt like it probably should have been one of the mainstays, one of the ones we had already kind of grown to love. And I just felt like they came out the gate and said, okay, there has to be stakes in this movie. But again, keep in mind, like before this, Avengers 1, there were stakes in that movie. There were people that died in that movie. So it was like, it didn't have to, a sequel doesn't always have to elevate the stakes. Like in some instances, sure, but there were just things about this movie that I didn't like. The betrayal of Ultron. I like Ultron as a character. I like Ultron as a villain. And I think he was played fairly well, but there's just something off about the character of Ultron, and I don't fully know. I don't know if it's the pseudo biblical references. I don't know if it's I think he looks great. I think he looks intimidating, but it's something about Ultron that I just don't like about this film, and it's not the portrayal, it's not the voice. All of that's cool. I think it's just maybe the way they tried to because he really hates human beings, especially Tony Stark, and that's cool. But there's something about his performance that, and I don't know, maybe I need to rewatch it a couple more times, but there's just something about it. Then there's the Quicksilver thing. And then this movie kind of doesn't do what all the other, Avengers movies do. It does, but not to the same extent. In all other Avengers movies, there's that one scene where all hell is breaking loose, things are happening, and it looks like all our heroes are probably going to lose. And then out of nowhere, here comes this glimpse of hope, and then they play the Avengers theme, and then the crowd in the theater goes nuts. They attempted to do that in this movie, but they didn't have the Avengers theme, and they didn't have they had a scene where they all kind of came together. But if you watch all the other three movies do this scene much better. I remember I saw this movie. It came out on my birthday back in 2015. and I was disappointed by the movie then. But it's a good movie, but it's just a little bit disappointing, and there had to be one ranked in fourth place. So for me, coming in dead last is going to be Avengers Age of Ultron. Coming in at number 3, and this one was hard to rank, and it's a little frustrating for me to even put it in this position because I would love to put it at number 2. But coming in at number 3 for me is going to be the original Avengers that came out in 2012. This movie is awesome. If I had to rank it on like my 5-tier system, it would be awesome. Hands down. Not really good. It's awesome. I was one of the people, when I first saw Iron Man in 2008, I said there was no possible way that they could get all these actors together in this film and make everybody succeed, make everybody feel like they had that moment to shine. But boy, guys, I was wrong. This movie came out while I was in tech school. I had just graduated basic training in Lackland Air Force Base. I was in Virginia, Fort Lee at the time. And I remember I was like, oh, the Avengers movie is coming out. So I remember this is back when movie theaters weren't really having the, you pay and you pick the seat online and things. This was back when you kind of had to just get there hour and a half, 45 minutes, whatever before. So I remember telling all my coworkers and friends, I was like, hey, this movie's coming out Friday, guys. We got to go see it. We got to get up there like an hour and a half early. And everybody was like, oh, nah, man, you're tripping. So we ended up going up there an hour and a half early. We were the first people in, and I told them. So we watched the movie, guys, and it was awesome. I mean, they were able to bring together all 6 of the Avengers. Everybody got a moment to shine. Loki is an awesome character, awesome villain. And then we get the reveal of Thanos. And I remember, guys, I've been into superheroes and comic books and things for 10 plus years, maybe 15, my whole entire life. Let me just be honest. My whole entire life, I've been into superhero stuff. And I didn't know who Thanos was. So the post-credit scene didn't really do anything for me. But I like what this movie was able to do. I like how it was able to humanize all of our characters. I like how even Loki being the, villain, it didn't just play him as being like outright evil. You kind of got a sense. It made all of the other previous solo films better, in my opinion. Even the misstep ones, like I love the first. I like Iron Man 1. That's my favorite one. I did not care for Iron Man 2 that much, but it built on the character of Tony Stark. It built on the character of Steve Rogers, and even Hawkeye and Black Widow, who at this time hadn't, still don't have their own solo films. I mean, the Black Widow film is due to come out in a couple months, and Hawkeye is supposed to get his show on Disney Plus. But it showed that not everybody had to have a solo movie for the movie to be good. And I liked how everybody got a chance to shine, and I absolutely love this movie. It's just that these other 2 films, I think, were better in terms of, if Avengers opened the door to big cinematic universes being able to work, these next 2 kicked the door in. So again, coming in at number 3 for the simple fact that these other 2 are just that much better, in my opinion, and the expectations of what they were able to do. Avengers comes in at number 3. Coming in at number 2, and I know I'm going to get some flack for this, but I've got to rank this the way I feel it deserves to be ranked. So coming in at number 2, you guys, for me, is Avengers Endgame. I know a lot of people put this at the top of their list for MCU movies. Like, out of all the MCU movies, I see this on a lot of people's number 1. I see this at the top of people's, when they do their ranking for the Avengers movies, it's number 1. And I've got to be honest, you guys, I love this movie, and I definitely think it's top 5, top 6 of the MCU movies. But if I'm going to be completely honest, I think that there are some other movies in the MCU that are better than this movie. And that's not a knock on Avengers Endgame. I mean, it was worth the expectation, and it blew my expectations. But there are some things about this movie that, I don't want to say don't work for me, but my number 1 just was a little bit better for me. There was a lot of fan service, and I expected that, the way that they killed off a lot of the newer Avengers and Marvel characters at the end of Infinity War. So I liked a lot of the fan service things, you know, Captain America lifting Thor's hammer, something that they teased in Avengers Age of Ultron. Even some of the things they did with Tony Stark. Tony Stark actually sacrificing his life for the whole entire universe. The Cap finally saying Avengers Assemble. There were so many things about this movie that are awesome. But where this movie lost me a little bit, you guys, and I'm just going to be honest about my opinion, the direction that they went with Black Widow, the direction they went with Hulk, and the direction that they went with Thor, those didn't really sit well with me, and I'll touch on it. And so I'll start with the Black Widow, because that to me was kind of one of the more frustrating ones, in my opinion, because it didn't really do anything new. I knew going into Endgame that if they were going to retrieve the Infinity Stones, that somebody was going to have to die for the Soul Stone that was located on Vormir, which we learned in Avengers Infinity War. That didn't catch me by surprise, but the way that they killed off Black Widow, and it was the exact same way that Thanos pretty much, you know, sacrificed Gamora in the previous film, it just didn't hit well with me. And then also, like, knowing that the Black Widow movie was coming out afterwards, and now knowing that it's a prequel, and I'm sure the movie's gonna be hype. Like, you guys, it's probably like between that and Spider-Man 3 coming out next year is tied for me for most what I'm most expecting, my most anticipated superhero movies of next year. It's probably a tie between that and Spider-Man. But to now know that it's gonna be a prequel, and then the big team up at the end where all the female Avengers characters team up, for Black Widow to not be a part of that scene, to me is just, it's the one thing about the movie that I wish they had changed, like, or it could have been wrote differently. It just felt to me when I saw that scene, first of all, Captain Marvel didn't need any backup from all the other females. I mean, she's Captain Marvel. But for Black Widow to not be in that scene, I think is a travesty. And it's not that I say it sucks, because it doesn't. But that, to me, just, it didn't sit right with me. I almost wish they wouldn't have done that scene, you know, and not because I'm not, you know, I'm for female empowerment, and I believe that women can do, you know, almost anything that men can do in terms of like the workplace and doing so many things and being mothers, and I'm fine with all of that. But for this big character that we followed for almost 10 years to not be a part of that scene, it would be like if they try to do a big, all the Iron Man-esque characters in a future Avengers movie, and now they've killed off Iron Man, for him to not be a part of it, like, that just, it didn't sit well with me. With Thor, I was okay with the Fat Thor thing, because there was a lot of funny things that came out of that. But where it didn't sit right with me was how he was able to go toe-to-toe with Thanos in the first movie, and then pretty much, like, I mean, he's a deity in the MCU, if you think about it, and he pretty much, you know, got fat, and then he pretty much wasn't able, I mean, they wrote it wonderfully to be able to explain how at the end of Endgame, how the three main Avengers, Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor, weren't able to, like, just axe Thanos right then and there. I guess it worked in that aspect, but it's like Thor is one of the most, I want to say, weirdly written characters in the MCU. I mean, he's one of my favorite Avengers, probably number 2 for me. I might even put him as number 1 over Iron Man, and maybe I'll do a video about that one day. But it's just, he's written so weirdly. Like, we meet him in the first couple of movies, and he's this stoic Prince of Asgard, and then we kind of get to in Thor Ragnarok, which I love the movie, he's more comedic, and then in Avengers Infinity War, he's kind of a cross between being comedic but also being that stoic Prince of Asgard that we knew. And then we get to this movie, and he's written kind of like as a joke character, and that goes down, that takes it down a little bit for me. And then the Hulk, I was fine with what they did with merging his brain with Bruce Banner and making him the Professor Hulk, and that was cool. But the fact that he got whooped on in Avengers Infinity War and then he didn't get to fight Thanos in a rematch, like that just didn't sit well with me. And I just didn't like how that went. But outside of those couple of things, and they kind of, I think that when you do time travel in movies, a lot of times movies get diluted. And I think that a little bit hurt the movie for me because there's very few movies with time travel where I actually like them. So for that, it's a great movie. Don't get me wrong. It's definitely awesome on my list, but coming in at number one, and I think probably a contender, it's probably my number one or number two in all of the MCU films, is Avengers Infinity War. And again, like I said, if the Avengers opened the door, Avengers Infinity War kicked the door open, not only for superhero movies, not only for the superhero genre, but for media in general. Like, they're if you guys have ever seen the Arrowverse, which is the Flash and the Green Arrow and all of that media, you can see the influence that Avengers Infinity War has had on like the Arrowverse and the Justice League Dark Apocalypse War movie, the animated movie that just came out a few months ago. You can tell that Avengers Infinity War had influences on these separate projects because I remember when the Arrowverse did the Crisis on Infinite Earth storyline, I remember halfway through they took a break and it ended on our heroes pretty much losing. And Justice League Dark Apocalypse War does the exact same thing. It ends on our heroes basically losing. Avengers Infinity War started that trope because I remember when I first saw this movie, I was in Texas to see one of my friends graduate from basic training. And when I found out he was going and what week he was graduating, I didn't know. And eventually when the tickets for Avengers Infinity War came out, I was like, oh man, I got to see this movie. Thanos had been teased. We knew he was coming, and I was like, I got to see this movie. So my friend graduated on a Friday. I pre-ordered like, I think 10, 15 tickets with some family members. My girlfriend at the time, we're married now, my brother and some other friends, my dad. So we saw it in Texas, and this was my hypest movie experience I've ever had. People were clapping, people were crying, people were jumping up and down. And again, going into this movie, I had said there is no possible way that we're going to cross over the Avengers, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, the Guardians of the Galaxy, and then also, pretty much give us our first introduction movie to Thanos, because he had been teased in Avengers Age of Ultron. He had a small part in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, but this was the movie that gave us the introduction. We understand why Thanos does the things he does, why Thanos is trying to eliminate half of all life in the galaxy. The stuff with Thanos and Gamora, I mean, just for him to sacrifice his daughter and to be moved to tears, like for him to be this big bad, but also have a reason for why he did what he did, and he was willing to sacrifice his own daughter. And that's why this movie makes Avengers Endgame better, because you see the parallel between Thanos and Tony Stark, Iron Man, because one was willing to sacrifice his daughter to basically accomplish his goals and, do what he felt was right, while Tony Stark was willing to sacrifice his own life and, knowing that his daughter was going to grow up without a father in order to save the entire galaxy and to bring back the people he had lost. And that's why, guys, Avengers Infinity War, in my opinion, made all three of the two prior Avengers movies and Avengers Endgame that much better. We've got the Guardians interacting with Thor and Spider-Man and Iron Man. We've got the Spider-Man and the Iron Man dynamic. We have the Spider-Man and the Doctor Strange dynamic. And this movie was awesome, you guys. This movie is nearly flawless, in my opinion. If there's a movie, there's two movies in the MCU that I think are three movies, actually, that I think are nearly flawless. And that's going to be Avengers Infinity War, Captain America, the Winter Soldier, and Captain America Civil War. All three of these movies, to me, you guys, are flawless, almost have no flaws. So if you guys have never seen any of the Avengers movies, or you guys have never seen Infinity War, what are you guys waiting for? Go check out this movie. All four Avengers movies are on Disney Plus. Go out and buy the Blu-rays. There's really not much I can say, you guys. Avengers Infinity War to me is probably next to The Dark Knight that came out in 2008. Maybe I'll do a video of like which my definitive number one superhero movie, or like my top 5 definitive superhero movies. But Avengers Infinity War, I think there is a legitimate argument to be made, in my opinion, that Avengers Infinity War is the best superhero movie. Maybe with the exception, like I said, of The Dark Knight, because of Heath Ledger's Joker and Christian Bale and how iconic that movie was. But to me, Avengers Infinity War takes the top spot, is the reigning supreme of the Avengers movies, and maybe even the whole MCU. Like I said, maybe there's a legitimate argument that it should be the Winter Soldier. But if you guys have never seen this movie, you guys need to check this movie out. Give it a thumbs up. And as I say in all my other videos, you guys, give me a like, comment, share, subscribe. And if you disagree with me, that's fine. Let's have a discussion about it. Let's talk about it. Let's have a discussion about our favorite, superhero movies. DC versus Marvel. Maybe you think The Dark Knight is the best superhero movie ever. Guys, let's have a, friendly discussion about it. Feel free to disagree with me, but guys, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. And if there's any other movies you guys want to see me talk about that I'm passionate about, or movies, maybe, suggest some movies to me that maybe I probably haven't seen, I'd be willing to do them all. I'd be willing to rank each of the MCU movies individually and each of the Avengers movies individually. So you guys, thanks for checking out this video, and I will see you guys in the next one when I talk about everything that I love in terms of movies and everything I hate in terms of movies. See you guys in the next one.